Today is Thursday, July 6th, 2023, at about 12:20 p.m. I'm Rex Gossett, a veteran volunteer here at the VA Medical Center. I'm interviewing Bill Ritter, also here at the Rocky Mountain Regional VA Medical Center here in Aurora, Colorado, as part of the Remembering Our Veterans program. And just as an aside, as you may notice, Bill is wearing a red vest also. He is one of the volunteers, as am I. So we're glad to have him as a volunteer here. So Bill, to start, if you can tell us a bit about your childhood, as to where you were born, where you grew up, and your early education.
Okay, I grew up in Sarah, Pennsylvania, which is on the New York-Pennsylvania border. In fact, the delivery room was right on the state line.
Okay.
So I can't tell you if I'm born in New York or if I'm born in Pennsylvania. So to keep it simple, I'm a Naipaul. Proud of it.
Okay.
Southern Tier Expressway, unfortunately, goes through the old Robert Packer Hospital.
So it depends, left foot, right foot.
Yeah,
Your foot
you know, it's your military left, military right.
Okay.
Pennsylvania right, New York left. We were getting ready to move into New York. Dad worked for the old Erie-Lackawanna Railroad. He was a Navy man himself, corpsman on the USS Coral Sea. And my mother was pregnant with my younger brother. She barely made it to Honor Ogden Hospital in Elmira, New York. And so he was born in the back of a taxi cab. We got to New York and we grew up on the farm in Arkport, New York, the second highest elevation of Steuben County. And it was my job in the morning to go out, clean the mangers, and clean the slop trough, hook the cows up to the milk manger. And then it was my job before I got on school bus, take the loaded milk cans out, park them at the end of the driveway, and then bring them back after school. And then we decided to move to town, which I didn't like because I felt like that on the farm, that's where I got all my core values, responsibility, accountability. You know, Dad didn't want to hear excuses, didn't want to hear evidence, alibis.
Okay.
You know, if you're in trouble, you're in trouble. Well, with the biography, I grew up in a toxic household.
Okay.
And as much as I love her to death, when her and Dad divorced, she deserted her kids. And I'm not going to say any more on that.
Okay.
The only thing I will add is what mother in her right mind would desert her kids and leave them with a drunk.
Yeah, that's tough.
Well, we moved to Canisteo. And about 1973, my sister Rose, my oldest, decided she wanted to go in the Army. And I said to myself, well, if she's woman enough to go in the Army, then I'm man enough to go in the Marine Corps. Because my favorite show on TV was Gomer Pyle USMC. Every Saturday night at 8 o'clock, I had to be glued to that TV. Don't bother me, don't say nothing. I got to see what Gomer's doing, because that's my notebook when I go to boot camp. I moved out here to Colorado in '77. The family had a big fight. Dad had a stroke. And like me, he was bipolar. He was an alcoholic. I'm celebrating 42 years of sobriety. And for reasons that I'll get to with the service. But I thought that the military would be the best thing for me to do. Because living with my mother, she tried everything under the sun to take all them core values and accountability and responsibility and rip them out of my heart. Well, I'm sorry. It don't work. That's like taking the Marine Corps out of me, but you're not taking me out of the Marine Corps.
So
and just vice versa.
So you volunteered for the Marines? Then.
Yes, I enlisted.
Okay.
I was in 10th grade. This was 1977. And this was on a Wednesday, September 9th, which was my birthday. In New York, first day of school was on a Wednesday after Labor Day. It happened to be the 9th. Stood this gunny, again, another gunny, all squared away. I just went up to the table, picked up an application off the top, folded it like so, stuck it in my wallet. I didn't tell a soul. Didn't tell Dad. Didn't tell my sisters. Didn't tell my brothers. Didn't even tell the Methodist minister, my favorite friend, Reverend Bob. I didn't even tell my bosses, Bob Wambo, Ralph Bowen, Jerry Brown. I didn't tell a soul. Not even my best friend. Not even my girlfriend, Marcy Peters. Nobody knew. Kept it in my pocket, my wallet, for 2 years. I finally graduated from Evergreen up here June 2nd, 1979 on the football field. Now it's the middle school up there. And my stepdad asked me, he says, well, you're a man now, what are you going to do? I pulled out the signed contract. I says, well, tomorrow being June 3rd, I'm off to MCRD San Diego. You didn't tell nobody. I said, it was nobody's business but mine. In fact, I enlisted 24 hours after the Vietnam era cutoff because I originally wanted to go in to get the Montgomery GI Bill. I missed it by 24 hours. So I ended up with that VEEP, which amounted to, for every dollar I contributed, they contributed $3 up to $2,400. Well, as you and I know, with inflation, $2,400 isn't even going to cover 2 classes. By the time you pay for books, labs, and all that good stuff. I spent 10 years with the Marines, 1979, 1989. Been up and down the rank scale twice. But needless to say, I did get back up to sergeant. And my MOS was 0331. But I was also a 8151 guard, 1800, which was intelligence, 0369 platoon sergeant. I was a private pulling that billet because of the T&E and reality the way it was. We didn't have enough staff sergeants to be there. So who got chosen to be the platoon sergeant? Well, to back up, I get to boot camp and I get standing on them hideous yellow footprints, shoes at 45-degree angle, and I'm looking at the dock and I see this squirt away gun. He's got the blood stripes, blue trousers, the red and gold chevrons, the whole shebang, the salad, the medals. Get your eyeballs off of me. Why? Are you ashamed of yourself? Well, the rest they say was history. So I'm sitting in front of this little cubicle and I'm holding up the toothpaste, my underwear, whatever else they had me holding up. And I'm sitting there thinking I could have a can of Coors, watching All in the Family. But here I sit on this cold floor and that loudmouth gunny that I just lipped off to is having me hold us all up to demonstrate what we were supposed to do. Got picked up by the unit. This was on a Sunday, and I met Sergeant Bodfield, Sergeant Tucker, and Sergeant Dobbs for the first time. And they was walking up and down the back of the squad bay, and I was watching them, and I said to myself, if them 3 stooges are going to turn me into a Marine in 13 weeks, good luck. Because I'll wager a case of Coors that they're not going to get the job done. Because I threw everything at them I could. They threw it all at me. They got it in reverse. Well, Sergeant Tucker, he wasn't much taller than my mom, and my mom stood 4'11". I swear he was every bit of 4'3". He comes down in front of my rack and he says, Ritter, you know something? Yes, sir, what's that? He says, crap rolls uphill or downhill with me behind it. I says, well, Sergeant Tucker, sir, crap rolls uphill with Ritter behind it. He couldn't get to the barracks fast enough. They're the duty shack. Private Ritter. And the whole platoon had to say, Private Ritter, aye, aye, sir. So what do? The most cardinal thing you could do in boot camp. That was run up the middle of the squad bay, ran right in the office without knocking. Yo, man, what do you want? All 3 of them were mad. They was all mad as red as my vest. And they started beating the wall locker. They even punched holes in the wall. And I just stood there with a big old Texas grin on my face. You better quit smiling, Ritter. said, I can't help it. You guys are, I don't know, if this is what you're getting paid to do. You know, it's your fist, not mine.
Now, which wars did you serve in, and for how long?
I served with, I didn't serve in any war. I call it the Cold War. I cannot stand being called a peacetime vet. In fact, I can't stand the word veteran. I'll be a Marine till the day I go up there to my final duty station, which is guard the streets of heaven. If you remember the third line of the third verse of the Marine Corps hymn, when the Army and the Navy look on heaven's scenes, they'll find the streets are guarded by United States Marines.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that wholeheartedly. It's an attitude thing with me. When I say Semper Fi, it means hello, it means goodbye, it means how are you, it means I'm glad to see you. I use it in all my letters. I'll start off with Semper Fi so-and-so and close with Semper Fi William Lee Ritter.
All that time, did you travel any place?
Oh, I had more basket leave than I knew what to do with. I've been to, I started, every Marine, regardless of you serve at Lejeune or Okinawa, you end up in Okinawa.
Okay.
But I had a chance to go to two islands. I ended up at Adak first, which was Marine Barracks. Oh, I loved it up there. That's where
Alaska, right?
yeah. First night on duty, I threw a lieutenant colonel in the dirt. Nothing but tundra, there's nowhere to hide. But he's taking pictures off a Toothpick Bridge, which was a wooden bridge. All I saw was a flash because it was so dark, I couldn't even see the back of my hand.
Mm-hmm.
So I went under the bridge and I climbed up. I scaled that Toothpick Bridge. Every time I was on foot patrol, I studied that bridge because I knew I was going to see something unauthorized. So I got up as high as the surface of the road and I said, halt, halt, who goes there? He said, Major Kelly. Major Kelly, advance and be recognized. He come forward. Major Kelly's not recognized because I met Major Kelly. Him and I met in Anchorage, not knowing he was going to be my new CO. So for him and myself, it was our first day at ADAC. So I already knew what he looked like. But everybody wears camouflage utilities and they wear boots and they wear the green cap. But I knew his voice. I knew he had sort of gray hair. I knew he was about 6 foot tall. Well, Lieutenant Colonel Johnson, I'll never forget him. Oh, by the way, Major Kelly had a South Carolina twang to his voice. Very distinct. Lieutenant Colonel Johnson, by the way, had a New England voice. So there was a distinct difference when he mentioned he was Major Kelly. And I already knew he was not Major Kelly. So I said, Major Kelly not recognized. So I came up on the bridge and I saw he had the camera. I said, you took an unauthorized picture toward the compound, right? Well, how'd you know? I said, sir, I saw your flash almost 3 miles away. Pitch black, and all I saw was a flash. I didn't know if you was a Russian that decided to come into ADAC and start to shoot him up, what you were doing. But whatever you were doing, it was unauthorized. I need to take your camera, I need to open the back, and I need to take the film out. Oh, no, you don't. Well, I reached over, grabbed the film out of the camera. He grabs me by the shirt. Well, my ankle went around his ankle and right in the mud puddle. Dress blues and all. Got on the radio. I called the sergeant of the guard. I said, you got the corporal of the guard with you? Yeah. I said, you might want to get the officer of the day too. Ritter, what did you do? Well, I've got an unauthorized personnel taking pictures, and he assaulted me by grabbing me by the shirt. And I've got my knee in the small of his back and my size 12 triple E to his crotch. I've told him not to move because if he moves, he's going to be singing soprano of the Marine Corps hymn for the rest of his life. Well, Lance Corporal McCluskey, Lance Corporal George, and Captain Durham, who was the officer of the day, all three of them were going, what did this guy do? It's his first day on duty. Well, the Lieutenant Colonel Johnson was fit to be tied. I want that SOB rolled up. I don't care what you do. You throw him in the brig. I said, sir, I'm not the one going to the brig. I said, come tomorrow morning. Major Kelly's going to know about this. He's going to be woke up. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. The only thing he's going to be mad about is he hasn't had his first cup of coffee. So the next morning, get back to the rear. Sergeant Basarge said, Ritter, you got to go see Major Kelly. You know what you did. I said, hey, I'm not worried about a thing. What was Colonel Johnson doing out in my backyard at Old Dark 30? That was my backyard. That was my post. I had to walk that island. He had no business being there, and he definitely didn't have any business taking pictures. And I would have warned him and left him alone. But when he grabbed me by the shirt, that was assault, and that's why he went in the mud puddle.
Mm-hmm.
And got there, got to the office, and Major Kelly asked me, Ritter, what's the score? Well, your illustrious Colonel Johnson, the commander of Fleet Marine Force Pacific, took all the unauthorized pictures at the compound at Toothpick Bridge. I hollered, ho, ho, who goes there? He said he was Major Kelly. I said Major Kelly wasn't recognized. And when I came up on the bridge, I explained to him that he did not sound like Major Kelly, nor did he look like Major Kelly. I said, Colonel Johnson has brown eyes. You've got blue eyes. So who's right or wrong here? I'm doing the job I'm supposed to do. Well, he's requested you get rolled up. Well, it's not going to happen because I won't sign it. You can put it in page 11. You can give me $1 million. Page 11 because you haven't got enough paper and pencil, Major Kelly, to give me that kind of a charge. It wouldn't stand up because I'd appeal it and it would get dismissed. He says, you know, you're right. Why should I waste my time?
Well,
He said, go stand out in the hall. We want to talk behind your back. I says, okay, fine.
that's,
So I go back in the office. He says, Ritter, we're not going to burn you. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and give you your PFC strike.
Mhm.
So I picked up PFC. A year later, I rotated to the 3rd Battalion, 1st Marines, and I met Captain Mayer for the first time. He says, Ritter, you got any questions for me? I got one that's been on my mind for a long time. He says, what's your question? I said, why doesn't the Marine Corps operate with common sense? He says, do you want to explain that? I says, well, you know, when I was up at 8 deck, first night I was there, I had to put an officer in the dirt and tried to get me burnt, but he's the one that was in the wrong. Well, he says, I'm going to remember that question. And he knew right away. He says, I know you're from New York. I says, how do you know? He says, you don't need to know. He says, what do you know about me? I says, well, Major Colonel, I get my rank screwed up here, so bear with me. I said, Captain Mayer, it's like this. You got the same twang as Major Kelly, so I know you're from North Carolina. I also know what you look like. You look like the front end of an engine. No offense, but straight, rectangular, chiseled face. We all wear camis, but you stand about 6'5". I said, if I had to recognize you at night, but I saw someone that, say, as tall as Corporal Summers, I'd know right away you're not Captain Mayer. Because I said I had 5 seconds to get your description, to get who you look like, eyes, nose, the mouth features, body height. Disregard the uniform, because everybody wears the same uniform. But if I had to describe you, I could describe you to a T.
do you recall any other humorous or unusual events?
Usual and unusual? Well, I got another unusual event. Captain Mayer and his 3 turds, Ritter, Summers, and Clay, we were his volunteers. sends us out on a patrol, and the purpose of a patrol to educate the ones that have never been in service. It's find avenues of opportunities that could be to an advantage of the Marines. So we're out on this patrol, and we're humping back around the enlisted club or the E Club here from us. And what was parked in front of the E Club? It was a beer wagon. The keys were sitting on the front seat, and Corporal Summers and Sergeant Clay were in the back. Hey, you two, come here. Look what I found. You think we could use that back at the barracks? The keys are in the front seat. We're going to get in trouble. I said, I'll worry about that when we get done. That was my way out of trouble. I'll worry about the paperwork. I'll worry about the repercussions. Well, we hopped in that beer wagon, and we took it back across Recon Hill down to the backyard. And Captain Mayer standing there just like so. The stone cold face. What have these idiots done now? Or in his terms, these turds, as he called us, which I'm proud of that moniker. You know, a lot of good memories. He says, Ritter, you're not supposed to bring this beer wagon. I said, if I'm not supposed to do it, it's already here. I don't know how it got here. Well, can you turn it back around? Well, before you do, I want to open it up. So he opened it up. He says, where's all the beer? I said, we didn't check it. We didn't know if there was any beer in there or not. Well, long story short, half of the 3rd Battalion 1st Marines were blitzed because they found the beer and they took it to wherever and having a good old time. So we took the truck back and parked it exactly where the guy had it. Put the keys exactly where they were sitting on the seat. And humped back to the bivouac. Colonel Hamilton, who was my colonel during boot camp, I served under him a second time at the 3rd Battalion 1st Marines. He was the battalion commander. Very good man. He was right up there with Captain Mayer and Major Kelly and some of the ones that I've had a pleasure to serve under. He says, I got a phone call. The beer wagon out here is missing all its beer. Does anybody know anything about it? I said, Captain Mayer, can I have that phone? Yeah. I said, Major Colonel Hamilton, I don't know what's being implied or who's saying it, but we're out here in the middle of the bush. We're doing land nav right now. We don't know anything about a beer wagon or what's missing. Okay, I'll see you guys when you get back to the rear. Click. That's all that was said.
Okay, regarding your sobriety, which is a considerable event, can you explain how that came about?
Yes, I was on basket leave before Grenada. I had 60 days on the books. Colonel Hamilton called me in the office. He says, Ritter, you got any plans to take any leave? I said, well, Colonel, I'm going to tell you like it is. If I go home, Mom and I are just going to get in a fight. He says, well, I need some information taken to Offutt. It's not classified. If you want to take it, take your 30 days and take the other 30 off the books. Because if you don't, you're going to lose it all and start back over with 30. I said, okay, I'll do it. So I ended up in Omaha, actually Bellevue, where Offutt Air Force Base is at. I had 2 places to go to. I had to go to Erling Bergquist's Medical Center, drop off the records for the Marines that were there that got in an accident, and they went to the nearest hospital to get care. And then I had to go over to the Marine Detachment at Offutt. Now everything's underground at Offutt. So imagine me, a Marine, looking around. I don't see any buildings. This airman walks up to me, can I help you? I said, yeah, I need to find find the CO's office for the Marine Detachment. Well, you got to go underground, go this tunnel, go that. I'm still lost, but I got there. I finally found it by accident, but I dropped it off, and I knew Bob and Jerry Clements. They were brothers. Jerry was a Vietnam vet, just as yourself. He was in the Army. His brother Bob was in Korea, a little bit older than Jerry. And I didn't have anything to do. I didn't want to stay on the street, so I went to Bob's Country Fixins. Darn good cook. He cooked. He was in the Navy, by the way. So Navy has the best cooks, hands down. And I mean that with a compliment.
Okay.
I said, Bob, well, Bill, what are you doing here? Well, I got 30 days and I got 60 days, 30 days off the books. I got 60 days total and I'm bored out of my gourd. I said, I need a job, you got a W-4, and I need a place to lay my head while I'm here. Well, you can have the old room where up above, and he says, I'll get the W-4 and I need a dishwasher. Fine. Did my dishes, got a free meal every day out of it. Mm-hmm. And he says, what do you want to do while you're here? I says, whatever I can find. Because otherwise I'm going to be popular with the Omaha Police Department if I start putting the booze. Well, you darn Marines, that's all you know how to do. Yeah, well, that's what they taught us. He says, go next door to Chicago Lumber. Well, liking museums, I love lumber yards, especially the ones with the old woodwork, oak doors, hickory, plumbing fixtures, the whole 9 yards. He says, you want to ask for Joe Calabro. He's a Marine. So I walked. Joe was just a little bitty guy, just like Sergeant Tucker. I says, Joe, I need some work. You got a W-4? Yeah. What do you know about construction? I said, I did it all my life with Dad. So most of the time we just restored houses to their original glory. He says, well, we're doing Victorian houses down in Ashland, Greenwood, and Waverly, Nebraska, there on US 6. By the way, that's where my favorite football team is at, Memorial Stadium, Nebraska Cornhuskers. He says, I got a lot of work. I says, I'm up and ready. I got 60 days. He said, we're going to restore these houses. We got to put modern fixtures in there. I said, that don't make any sense. If you're going to restore the house to the original glory, put the old fixtures back in there too. Well, we got to stay within the building code. I says, I'll show you a shortcut. I said, I need a 5-gallon bucket of the hottest water you got and a can of lye. So the toilets that were being replaced were 2-piece. Well, Micklin Phillips down on 24th and Q had all the parts that I needed. So I bought the new parts, but I hooked the old ones back up, made a portable wall, set the toilet on a 55-gallon drum, plugged the hole where the supply line hooked, poured the water in, and as I flushed, I dumped a whole can of lye. The junk that come out of that poor toilet, it was breathing a sigh of relief. My God, that's like brand new. I says, I'm not done yet. I took a can of Comet, made a paste, scrubbed the outside of that toilet, made it shine. Did the same with the sinks, the bathtubs, the kitchen sinks. Now you can put them back in and you can tell them they're brand new. What will we use for a receipt? You let me worry about that. This gift of gab can do just about anything. Well, that work had come to an end, and I still had 3 weeks of my leave. And I just happened to come across Commercial Optical. Walked in, asked for another W-4, fill it out. Well, and I had a chance to get the layout, another 5-second impression. Well, okay, they got completed prescriptions here. and they had one in the back, cleaning gears in the back, so I can clean the office, and as I do, I can get the prescriptions from that box, finish up the cleaning, get the other prescriptions, and when I leave, shut the light off, lock the door, and leave. Well, I forgot, I don't have a driver's license. So I go back to Joe Calabro. I said, Joe, I got the job next door with the commercial optical, but I don't have a vehicle. It's 58 miles to Lincoln, 1 hour by car, but I'd have to be Superman, Captain America, and all the rest of the other superheroes, including Gomer Pyle, to get there in 1 hour if I have to walk. Well, take my truck out there. And I didn't know what that was. It was a 38 Peterbilt, by the way. 2 gear shifts, and I had to steer it with my knees. Never drove a rig in my life. Never drove a car. In the Marines, you didn't have a need for a car. I'll say, make that a nice statement. I didn't have a need for a car. I had a bus to rely on, friends that I could bum to get a ride. You might as well say I was a survivor. I knew how to get around. Well, got in that rig, started it up, pulled out, went in the curb all right, and I started going down. I shifted, got up on I-80, headed toward the Waverly exit, and I happened to look out in the mirror, and I got 6 state troopers behind me because they were doing their guard mount. And I knew one of them, his name was Dave. When I was doing the rehab on the Victorian houses, we had to have breakfast every morning at the Waverly Cafe because right across the street was the Troop B barracks for the Nebraska State Troopers. As I got to the exit, I downshifted, got to 10 mile an hour, but forgot that I had a 40,000-pound trailer full of freight. Even though I was at 10 mile an hour, the velocity and the force of that 40,000 pounds seemed like I was going faster. Well, there was a yellow Vega in front of me, and I tapped it. But then I blacked out. I don't know why, but I blacked out. Driver, are you okay? Didn't hear a thing, but he opened the door. All I remember was I started falling out. Got me down on the ground, got me ugly. I said, well, Dave, where'd your ugly mug come from? He says, I was in the squad car behind you. I said, was anybody hurt? He says, well, the woman and her 2 children were killed when they got pushed into the guardrail. It was kind of like my hitting rock bottom, if you will. I just looked at Dave. I said, let's do we'll do the sobriety test. I'm volunteering. Something's not right. Let's do it. Well, I walked the yellow line straight as could be. Said my ABCs, A to Z, Z to A. Did my numbers 1 to 100, 100 to 1. But I said, I'm not convinced. Let's go to Lincoln General and I'll get the blood work. He said, Bill, that's going to cost you. I said, I don't care. Something's not right. So don't argue with me. Put me in the car. Get me to Lincoln General. Well, everything came back negative. But they discovered that I had a diabetic shock from all the drinking, all the sugar. Because what did we eat in the Marine Corps? Barbecue, sea rats, and beer. That was it. Yeah, I'm part of the old Corps. We had sea rats. We didn't have MREs. Little brown box, your 15-ounce green can was your entree, and so on and so forth. The blood work came out, and the doctor said, well, you're not drunk, but you went into a diabetic shock. Well, geez, you're just telling me I'm diabetic. Yeah, that's about the size of it. I said, speak your piece. Don't sugarcoat it. Tell me plain. I said, well, you won't be a truck driver because there's no way I can pass you. I says, I don't want to be a truck driver. In fact, I don't even want a license after what had happened. I said, I wouldn't be here except what I did in the Marine Corps, I just did to a family. When I hit them in the rear end.
That determined your change to sobriety then.
September 21st, 1982. I called Dad, wished him a happy sobriety, and I gave him a gift. Said, Dad, I quit drinking. And I told him exactly what I just said here. Told him what had happened. I said, will you be my sponsor over the phone? One condition. You call me every Friday at 9 o'clock. If you don't call me, I'm on the phone, and you better have a reason why you didn't call me. And I mean it. So every Friday, like clockwork, I'd call him. I haven't had a driver's license since, and I don't care to get behind the wheel. I'm 64 years old. I've been this long without a car. I darn sure don't need one now. I've had some unfortunate duty. Grenada. That was supposed to have been, this was 1983. Right about the time the Beirut bombing went off. Went to Grenada. And, excuse me a minute, it's really rough. It was supposed to be a humanitarian exercise. Well, if you know what a swarm of bees sound like, imagine that. The bees being ammo flying at us as soon as we hit the beach. Well, by the time I got to the rear, we actually had to call, believe it or not, we had to call back to the ship to get authorization to fire back. I didn't have time to get on the radio and call for authorization. Two reasons. One, if I called back, and two, I didn't have enough time to take the machine gun, put it on a tripod, put the traversing and elevation wheel underneath so that I could do a 180-degree fanfire. By the time I'd done all that, and by the time I called back to the rear to get authorization, I wouldn't be sitting here. I'd be up there with Dad and the big party going on right now. Only he's up there with the big guy. Lord, don't bring him up. We need him down there. And shooting back, and I was doing the fanfare, I said, you SOBs, one of us is going to be 6 foot and vertical. And one of us is going to be horizontal. I am not going to be horizontal. And neither is my squad. Because I was even, before we went ashore, I was told, Ritter, you're in charge. So I was in charge of not only my machine gun squad, but the 3rd Rifle Platoon. And I was making doubly darn sure we were getting back safe, no harm, and everybody accounted for.
This went on for how long?
It seemed like an eternity. I couldn't give you a time limit. It was, if you've ever been in a firefight, it seems like less than 5 minutes, but it could be 5 years. It could be even longer than that. And I just, John Wayne style, I took the machine gun, put it into my hip, and I just started going back and forth. So if you guys want to fight, well, by God, let's fight. Because all they had was AK-47s. With the same round that's used in the M16 or the M60 machine gun and the M14, which the rifle I love. Now I can sit on the firing line of the rifle range and I can hit bullseyes all day long at the 500 gun and do a 250 marksman all day long. The M16, I'm lucky if I do a 186 or lower, because that darn barrel was so light, back and forth. Well, anyway, on Grenada, after I did the fanfare and we went up, it was my job as a senior check for information. Well, what I saw next, I pulled out their wallets out of their back pocket. All I'm going to say is they were not adults. They were minors. They were wannabe gangbangers that Fidel Castro threw over there Because his philosophy was, if you guys want to shoot them up, you're not shooting up my island. I'm putting you on another island. You can have at it. The youngest was 9 years old. The oldest was 14. I immediately went into shock. I froze. I didn't even remember getting punched in the face by Sergeant Summers and Sergeant Clay. Sergeant Summers finally got his stripe back while we was in Grenada, and they both just hit me at once. Just boom! That's all I could do. So what the hell are you hitting me for? Ritter, did you hear anything? No, all I looked at was the IDs and saw the ages, and I said, I froze. And I literally got on my knees and started bawling my eyes out. I said, I'm only human. But according to the objectives that we all signed, I had to do what I had to do. And it's unfortunate. Well, after we got through that, because they were guarding the bridge, it was 3 miles from the beach to St. George's University where the students was at. The bridge was heavily guarded. We couldn't get across that bridge. But when that swarm of bees was coming at me, I knew what I had to do. Machine gun in my hip, and just started doing the fanfare like John Wayne. Back and forth. Secured the bridge and got over. We got to the students, walked into the dorm. We got by the women's shower. Summers told me, he said, Ritter, go in there and check it out. Well, I must have looked a sight like a man from Mars with the night goggles, the flak jacket, the grenades hanging off, the M60 in my hands, and the Alice pack on my back. And this poor gal in her birthday suit taking a shower said, ma'am, I don't mean to interrupt your shower, but I've been informed that you guys have been taken hostage. Is everything okay? Well, we don't know. First of all, we don't know anything about being hostage. Okay. So I said, I'm going to step out, let you get back to your shower, and let Sergeant Summers know. Well, what's Summers do? So I get out there and I tell them, hey, they don't know anything about it. Well, go back in and ask her a question again. So, got to follow orders. Go back into the shower, talk to the same girl again. I said, are any of you hurt or injured or anything? No. Well, the funny thing about this, the reason why I say it was Ronald Reagan's false alarm, is once we crossed the bridge and we got to the campus, kids were outside throwing frisbees, studying, getting a suntan, or just sitting under the tree conversing. But you could hear the rifle fire. They weren't even paying attention. No, they didn't know what was going on. So I go back in there and I asked the gal, I said, you sure you guys aren't hurt? There's nothing. No, there's no hostages. We don't know anything about it. We went through that whole St. George's University. There was classes going on. People were having lunch. The deans and the heads of the department heads were having their morning meetings or whatever. So I go back out of the shower. Well, Summers and Clay, you two come with me. Come on. If I got to go in there a third time, I'm dragging you two in there with me. So we go back in, talk to this same gal again. And she said, Sergeant Ritter, before I say anything more, we don't know anything about being hostages or rifle fire. We hear it, but we just think it's just guys out having target practice. I said, okay, fine. Well, we get back to Captain Mayer, told him. The island was secured, by the way. I got the secure flag since I was the last man from the 3rd Battalion, 1st Marines that served at Grenada. It was a 48-star flag that we flew up so that it would let the ships and other folks know the island was secured. That flag will go with me when I die. So we got in our formation, having our huddle, as we called it. Captain Mayor says, I need 3 volunteers, Ritter, Summers, and Clay. I need you guys to do a snoop and poop, or otherwise known as a search and seek. We went to the north part of the island. I just happened to have a camera. And that's when I discovered the missile platforms. They were built in such a way that the missile would have flown over Cuba and hit Florida, 150 miles away. From Key West to Cuba, it's 90 miles. From Cuba to Grenada was another 50. So that's 140 miles. Just imagine if Russia got away with that. This country would not be the same. So I took pictures. I could make a camera talk. I took them back. And on the way back, we found the 2 foot lockers. I was on one end. Summers was on the other. Whatever we found, we were immediately to take back to the USS Juno, the ship I was on. Mm-hmm. As I was going through the sand, and my dad told me all my life, Bill, quit shuffling and pick up your feet. Well, I wish I'd have listened to him a little bit harder, because I tripped a wire. You couldn't even see it. It was thinner than a fishing line. All I heard was a bang, and I was out. Well, when I woke up, there's Summers and Clay with their compression bandages. What are you guys doing to my crotch? Ritter, you're going to be all right. Don't go to sleep on us. We'll get you to the Juno. I said, what about the footlockers? Don't even worry about it. They got me back to the Juno. And that's when I found out I lost my reproductive system. Everything on the crotch. There was a bouncing Betty. It just came right up, got me in the crotch, took everything away. And the battalion surgeon said, well, in all likability, since this was a humanitarian exercise, you won't receive any benefits, medical or compensation from the VA. I said, humanitarian, hell. What do you call it when you got a swarm of bees called ammunition flying at me? Having to call back to the rear to get authorization. And then you expect me to set the tripod up, put the traversing wheel on it. I said, you'd be bringing back a dead man by the time I got all that done. As it was, I had to fire the machine gun unauthorized off my hip because it was either me or them. Mm-hmm. Regardless if they were kids. I didn't know if they were kids or adults. I had to do what I had to do. That was the job. That was a mission. And I told the battalion surgeon, I said, I'll worry about protocol, authorizations, court-martial. I'll worry about all that when I'm on ship. Just patch me up. Well, then I passed out, and they sent me to the USS Hope. And there was only one corpsman out there. He says, I got to go get some lunch. Hold the fort. Okay. I was so pissed. I looked in the file cabinet under R's, and I went under RT, RI, and then under IT. Well, RIT, there were several of us, and I went RITT. Yep, I'm the only one. I'm not going to tell you where the records are at, because they're going with me to my grave. And when we got back to Horno, that's when my drinking really got heavy. From 8 o'clock in the morning till almost the 4 o'clock formation, I was in the E-Club. I put a $100 bill on Staff Sergeant Harrington's bar, 2 cases of Coors, and the biggest bottle of Jack Daniels I could get my hands on. And for the next 8 hours, that's all I did. Down in the dark corner of the E-Club, and Boilermakers, here you come. Make my stomach happy. And I just started pouring away. And I made myself a choice. I'm either going to drink myself sober, or they're going to carry me out of here in a body bag feet first.
Well, during your time in service, were you ever awarded any medals or citations?
Since Grenada
How have you earned them?
Grenada was considered a classified information, and since it was a humanitarian exercise, I didn't get so much as a Purple Heart, but I do got ribbons. I've got 12 of them, and it was only because of what I did for intelligence, S2. But I didn't get the Silver Star. I didn't get none of that. I figured if they're not gonna allow me, medical or compensation, I don't want nothing. As long as I knew my squad and my rifle platoon got back safe and accounted for, that's all the reward I wanted. You can take the rest of it and shove it where the sun don't shine. If you don't know how it fits, bend over and I'll show you how it fits.
Well, did you have any particular jobs after service? Any occupation you're doing now?
Well, right now I'm retired because I'm bipolar because of Grenada.
Okay.
But I had several jobs. After I got out of the service, I rode the rail for 3 years because I didn't know what I was going to do. I got my associates when I was in the service. And I really wanted to be, my brain was trained to being the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps. That was all that was on my mind from the time I went to boot camp right up until Grenada. And looking back at it with my drill instructors, my former officers and NCOs, and they were preparing me for that position. Because why else was I under 3 hats? The problem private, the example private, and the platoon guide. Under 1 hat. But most of the jobs I had when I rode the rail, I didn't have to worry about a shower. I didn't have to worry about food because there was always a farmer harvesting crops and needed help. And there was always a stream where the tracks ran. So I had a bar of soap, cleanliness next to godliness, get myself cleaned up, go into town, and I'd see a help wanted sign in the window. I'd take the help wanted sign. I didn't ask for an application. So you got a W-4? I sit there and filled it out. Where's the dishes? I'll start washing. Where's the toilets? I'll start cleaning. Nothing was above me.
Okay.
Because at least it was honest, and I wasn't robbing anybody. I wasn't mugging anyone. It's what Dad taught me. Right from wrong. And if I had a few more sessions with the razor strap, why, I might be a better person than I am. But other jobs that I had, I spent 23 years in Omaha. And most of my jobs were customer service. Working in a grocery store, working in a tool store. Sometimes I had 4 different jobs. I worked in the probation's office for about 3 years in Omaha, at the Douglas County Courthouse, and it was my job to process the paperwork, get the signatures and all that good stuff. But it was all customer service. The basic thing we learned in the military, besides being a rifleman, was customer service. Someone asks you a question, customer service. I'm here to report, customer service. How do I do such and such? Customer service. This is how you do it, A, B, C. Right on down the line.
Now that you're in retirement, do you have any particular hobbies? Or?
Oh, yes. I'm a model train builder. I belong to 2 model train railroad associations. Platte Canyon Railroad Association and the Denver Rio Grande Railroad Association. I volunteer about once a month out at the Railroad Museum in the library. And that's where I learned how they made Moffett Tunnel, the longest tunnel in the U.S., 6 miles long.
Yeah, they do have large railroad model displays here in Denver.
Yes,
You
you
probably
do.
go to those too.
I go to every one that I can get my hands on and have a chance to go. And I like taking people with me.
Do you have any trains set up at your home?
Well, let's put it this way. I got 365 train sets.
Okay.
And if I set them all up in my 1-bedroom apartment, I'd be sleeping in the parking lot, watching TV in the parking lot.
Right.
And Elizabeth, my my manager and significant other, I don't think she'd be too happy.
Train sets are different gauge then?
I've got O gauge, or the N gauge, and the ON30,
Okay.
which is your narrow gauge, up to the garden gauge, which stands about 16 inches high. I put that out in the apartment complex every Christmas. Kids love it. I can take them for a ride. My goal this year is to make it to where you can go all over the complex, both parking lots, whistle blowing when you get to the office and back around. Just have fun.
Well, is there any particular one-time experience you've had outside of military service that stands out?
One-time experience. Lake Cunningham, which is dam side 11. Went up there with Don Spittler and his family.
Okay.
We were going to go fishing. And I just bought my fishing license. And over by the bridge where Route 36 goes from Omaha to Fremont was a little cliff. Me, Don, his son Dwayne, his wife Peg, and myself were fishing. Well, Donnie's pole was bent way over. He's, what the heck you got, boy? He's trying to reel it in. The pole's bent in, almost broke the pole. We reached down. We all almost went in the water. All I saw was this great big head. I said, no, you're not having me for lunch. There's just no way. I mean, his head was this big, a big old cat. I said, you're not having me for lunch. Not going in there. Most of my life has been nothing but fun. I've had a good life. The last few years, I've had an illness. They still don't know what it is. It's every respiratory condition you can think of. 2016, I had, the credit union I was with only had two branches. One at the Tivoli, which was closed. The other one was still open, which is out at 9355 Alameda. I was 420 pounds then. Walking with a cane. Hadn't had oxygen yet. But I got off the Zero to go to I think it's not the Alameda, the Broadway station. And I had to walk down by Elberson's and to the bus stop. Barely made it. I had to ask a guy for the ride to the bus station. Could barely get in the truck. That's how big I was, 420 pounds. I got off the bus, and Alameda, you have Parkway, the median, and then the frontage road. Well, there was snow. I thought, well, hey, instead of walking up and go, along the road, because they treat that out there just like Peoria, Indianapolis 500. No disregard for pedestrians. So I walked across the median through the snow, got up on the side of the road. It was black ice and then solid pavement. I put my right foot on the solid pavement. I was down on the ground. Don't remember a thing. I don't even remember the four guys that picked me up. I said, are you okay? He said, yeah, I think I'm fine. I don't have any bruises or scratches. You able to go? Yeah, I'm just going up here to the credit union. Well, I got to the parking lot. And the guy in the truck had asked me too if I needed a ride. No, I said, I'll make it. Well, I stopped and started losing my balance again. He come over, grabbed a hold of my left arm, started to walk. My legs turned to jello. Down I went again. So imagine my surprise. The angels in the bank had to come out, take care of my banking in the parking lot because I couldn't make it in the door. The ambulance showed up. They said, well, where do you want to go? I said, the only hospital that has my records that work with the VA is Rose Medical. Clear back over here from Alameda. And they were kind enough to give me the ride. My oxygen was 62. Dr. Miller came into my room, and the first question she asked, why aren't you dead? So, what are you talking about? Your oxygen's 62. I said, well, what was my blood pressure? Well, that's another little stunt we got to worry about. Your blood pressure was 52 over 43. I said, I don't feel sick. Don't feel lightheaded or anything. All I did was fall down and brought me here. Well, they're going to send me home with the green weenie. That's the tank on wheels. I said, no, I'll take the concentrator, but you're not going to load me up with tanks and then not pick them up. And I got home because I tried to get the Inogen machine through the VA, and they kept stalling. Well, since I was with Rose, I got the number, which I already had wrote down, just got my disability. First thing I did was buy the Inogen portable oxygen. Got signed up for it. Said, do you need me to do it? Nope, we got all your records right here in front of us. 2 weeks later, it was right there at my door. It's been a lifesaver. I use the concentrator at night, but I no longer have to use the portable unless I absolutely need it. Well, according to Dr. Maloney, when I came in last year and did the pulmonary function and whatnot, he discovered that I'm chronic pneumonia, chronic bronchitis, asthma, COPD. Never had a cigarette in my life. But I worked with a lot of plaster and lath, asbestos, gutting houses, you name it. Every time Dad and I would flip a house, it was gutted. Roof, everything. I just recently reversed the diabetes. I'm no longer on insulin. All I take now is Ozempic every Sunday. I've gone from 420 pounds, right now I'm 250. And right now I got 50 pounds to go by September 9th, and that's where I'll be at when I was in boot camp. Although I was at 173 when I was in boot camp, loud and proud and thin.
Well, that was the question. How did your military service affect your life?
Well, the military service affected my life in such a way, it reinforced everything Dad taught me. And by that I mean ethics, scruples, right from wrong.
So parental guidance played a
Yep.
part. Some of the things you miss about being in the service, or anything you're glad you left behind?
Some of the things I miss about the service was the shenanigans I pulled. I'd love to go back in and do them all over again.
I don't know about these days. I don't know how that would go.
Well, I'll tell you, if I was a young kid today, knowing what I know now, I teach them kids, you don't hold up a white card saying you're stressed, because that just puts you on the skyline. Because as soon as you hung that up, just like when I told my one to be the sergeant major, well, let me tell you, I had every drill instructor on MCRD San Diego all around me like Custer's Last Stand. And I'm just grinning and laughing and carrying on. Things I do miss about the service, if I had anything I'd want to forget, it'd be Grenada.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And the 3 that I had to kill.
Okay. What do you wish more people, or such civilians, knew about veterans and military service? What should they know?
I'm a U.S. Marine. That's all they need to know.
Okay. What would you like for people to remember about your journey?
I'm a U.S. Marine.
Okay.
I'm going to be cremated, And it's my wish that on a very windy day, you put my ashes on a shovel and you scatter them. And when the wind blows, everyone's going to know that Bill Ritter is pissed.
Okay. How about this? What message would you like to leave for future generations regarding your service?
If you don't know
or
what
this interview.
if you don't know what you're going to do, the last thing you should do is stand on a street corner, twiddle your thumbs. Make a decision to either go to work, go to school, or do 4 years in the service. I think everyone should do 4 years in the service.
Okay.
At least get a taste of it. If you like it, re-enlist. If you don't, get discharged. No one's gonna fault you for it.
And for what reason or reasons should they consider service? Do that.
Well, as a young kid, you get your free hots and a cot, your medical care, dental care while you're in, and definitely listen to the drill instructors because they're not there to hurt you. Because boot camp, in my eyes, served two purposes. Mm-hmm. It trained me for Grenada, which was, to me, was a war. And it prepared us in case we became a POW or a prisoner of war. Mm-hmm. That was the only two things that was supposed to teach us. Mm-hmm. But we had kids every day calling their mommy and daddy and their senators. Oh, he's getting in my face and hitting, pointing his finger and cussing me out. Well, they can't even do that now.
Yeah.
They can't even, they got to stand at least 3 feet away and they got to calmly talk to you. That doesn't prepare you for anything. Because there was times Dad yelled at me, I thought, geez, what's he yelling for? Bill, the only reason I'm yelling, because if you make a mistake, it could kill you. And I'm not here to kill you, I'm here to help you.
That's good. Well, Bill, appreciate you being here. Thanks so much for your interview time.
I enjoyed it.
Well, we greatly appreciate it.
I hope you all got a good education, because I'm the only time I'm going to say it.
Well, I think a few people who view this probably will. Okay.